Welcome back to the Roger Sarn podcast where we talk all things Army. And I'm your host, Sarn Cruz. And today we're talking counterproductive leadership and the impact it has on the organization. And without further ado, let's get started.
Roger Sarn!
All right, so welcome back. Real quick, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on so you can get the notification when I drop a new video. If you're on the podcast listening, go ahead and download, leave a review, and thank you. So today we're talking counterproductive leadership. So let's get into the overview. We're going to talk about how we came to use the term counterproductive leadership versus the old term, which was toxic. We're going to define what counterproductive leadership is, and then we're going to talk about the 5 destructive leadership styles and identify techniques for uncovering and identifying counterproductive leaders or leadership. So first thing is the changing of terms, what prompted it. So the Army's let go of the term toxic or the label toxic because toxic kind of like became a buzzword back in the day. And when you say something is toxic or someone is toxic, you're talking about that person. So if you say Sarn Cruz is toxic, then you're not talking about anything I do technically. You're really labeling me, the person, as toxic. So what the Army did, they changed the term to counterproductive leadership. It puts more emphasis on the actual behaviors displayed versus the person that's displaying the behavior. Hope this makes sense. Toxic means the person. Counterproductive leadership is their behavior on how they lead. So a quick note is to be classified as a toxic leader, the behavior has to be recurrent and it has to have damaging impacts on the organization and its performance, and it has to have impact on the welfare of the subordinate as well. So if something is toxic, it's always happening. It affects the organization and the welfare of the soldiers, which typically has all 3 of them in there if it's in true nature toxic. So let's move on to counterproductive leadership defined. And this is according to Army Leadership and the Profession. And you can find this in ADP 6-22, paragraph 8-4. And this is where all this information is coming from. I'm not making this stuff up. I find a PowerPoint and just give it to you guys. By the way, there's no PowerPoint today. I'm going straight off my notes and giving you guys raw information so you guys can see this ugly mug the whole time. So counterproductive leadership is defined as the demonstration of leaders' behaviors that violate one or more of the Army's core leadership competencies or values, preventing a climate conducive to mission accomplishment. That's what it is. So counterproductive leaders, they generally leave the organization in worse conditions than what it was when they got there. And it has long-term effect on not only the morale, but the readiness of the organization. I'm pretty sure hundreds of you, many of you who are watching this have seen or heard the term or the phrase when you leave something better than when you got it. And that's popular in the Army. You get to an organization, you want to leave it better. You get to your team, you want to make it better. You get to your squad, you want to make it better. Platoon, you want to make it better. So that's what it does. And when you don't do that, it's called counterproductive. Because in reality, it's just counterproductive. You're not doing anything good, anyone any good. And it affects the morale and the readiness because if your morale is low, you start doing crazy things like rational things because of the effect that it has on you, which is you could potentially have some mental issues, physical issues, because if your mind is messed up, then you're probably not sleeping at night, all these other things, which is going to cause your body to have harm. You can start kind of like using your money to like buy things. So now you're starting to get financial issues. You probably start drinking more or drinking at all. And when you drink, you kind of affects your readiness because you're just not there mentally. You're not ready to perform at work. And all leaders are susceptible to actually displaying counterproductive behaviors at times, right? And these times could be of times of stress, high up tempo, chaotic conditions, and all in to receive a short term um, result. So what I mean by that is I at times can be like, hey, you go over there and just pull security, and you may not like that, right? Or I can curse at you because I'm high stress. Hey, fucker, go ahead and pull security. Why are you over here? I can spaz out, right? And that's due to that nature. But if I do that all the time, and now you remember the definition is it violates that, and it has to be reoccurring and damaging, right? So you got to understand that at times leaders are going to do things that you don't like. That's just the nature of the beast. That doesn't make them counterproductive. It's just that they had a high stress at that moment. Or a leader tells you that you can't do something. You can't go on leave because of the mission, or you take leave at a different time. Anything. You can't go to this school now, take it later. That's not counterproductive. That's just something that you don't want to hear, but they're still offering you something. And most importantly, commanders and the command team has the responsibility to nip it in the bud. That's their job. They take action and they eliminate the threat, which is why you see a bunch of these command climate surveys. If you have like commanders that actually are doing this and first sergeants that are actually doing this to better the organization wholeheartedly, then they will do these often and get a pulse of the organization and address any issues. All right. So the next thing we're going to move into is, now that we already understand what counterproductive leadership is, why we went to counterproductive leadership term, we're going to talk about the destructive leadership styles, and there's 5 of them. Incompetent managers, affable non-participants, insensitive driven achievers, toxic self-centered abusers, and criminals. So let's move into the first one, which is incompetent managers. So these incompetent managers, they have this they don't have the cognitive or emotional fitness to have to function at their level. So if I'm a platoon sergeant, I just can't be a platoon sergeant. Like, it's just no way that I'm not making the right decisions. I don't have the experience for it. So therefore I continue, like, I'm just incompetent. I'm not having troops to task. I'm not having a PT schedule. I don't have training aligned, and so there's no predictability. So that can make me labeled as incompetent, right? They can't. I can't move from a tactical to a strategic level when required. So means that I can't go from my organization to a higher level because it's just I haven't mastered the organizational part, and I just can't make sound decisions, right, and on time. Pretty sure many of us have had leaders that you ask them something, or you see that they're asked something by their superiors, and they just can't come up with an answer on the spot. A lot of times it's just because lack of experience and just not prepared, because they're not forecasting anything. A lot of the questions that are asked by your leaders are not questions that are out of the realm of what's happening, right? There are some one-offs, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about actual day-to-day operations, and you just can't give an answer. Like, hey, do you have 2 soldiers to go to this change of command ceremony? I would know because I just have my troops to task. Or it's just examples. The next one is affable non-participant. So this person is interpersonally skilled and intellectually sound, but incapable of taking charge, making decisions, providing timely guidance, and holding subordinates accountable. So they provide minimal guidance, avoid decisions, and are fond of committees, meetings, visitors, and often lack passion or creativity. So this person is just they're smart, but they just don't want to take charge. They stay in the cut, whatever it is that you may want to call it. They fall back. They don't want to make decisions, and they refuse, or they just can't hold their subordinates accountable. Something happens and they just sweep it under the rug, or just don't say nothing about it, or just blame it on whatever it is and never address the issue, because that'll create confrontation and they don't like that. They don't like making decisions because they don't want to look bad, maybe. Um, and the big one is going to be the fond of committees because they can make a decision but not be liable for it because it's a group setting, right? So that's the affable non participant. The next one is the insensitive driven achiever. Now, these leaders are usually bright, energetic, and are consumed by the need for a unit accomplishment and attendant recognition, right? So they have to get, they, they're really smart, they're really good, they're really outgoing, but they have to accomplish something. They have to be recognized for it. They often provide impressive short-term results, right? They can get that mission done, small missions and stuff like that, but it's not for the long-term benefit of the organization. Um, they they create a frenzied and micromanage climate because they're always wanting everything done perfectly or right the way they want it, and in order to get that recognition, it has to be done right. Or the way that they think is right. So they're gonna always micromanage, and they're frequently inattentive to the morale of the organization because it's all about them. So they don't care how anyone else feels. It's all about them and their achievement. Next one is going to be a toxic self-centered abuser, and these leaders are usually bright. They're also energetic. They also really goal oriented and boss focused. Okay, capable of producing spectacular short-term results, but they're arrogant, they're abusive, intemperate, they're distrusting, and irascible. Now, they're typically distrusting, micromanaged, but never burdened by introspective. So these troops, they can do it all, and they can do it all really good, but they're they're just arrogant, and there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I said it on the podcast. It depends on how you view that individual. If you like them, they're confident. If you don't like them, they're arrogant. That's the way I see it. That's my opinion. But at the same time, because of their height of arrogance, they're micromanagers because everything has to be right. Because if someone messes up, it's going to be on them, right? So they're very distrusting because when someone micromanages, it's because they don't trust you. That's the bottom line. So um, you just have to understand, like they don't see anything wrong with themselves. It's everyone else will do it wrong, just not them. All right. And the last one is going to be the criminal. And these individuals are energetic, bright, and sometimes even charismatic because they have to have that facade, right? However, they cheat, lie, steal, defraud, and assault. So these people be wild. They're wilding out. But as I said also on the podcast, cheat, lie, steal, and defraud, that's multiple activities all day long. you're you're cheating the system because you're not doing a proper PMCS. You're lying because if you're asked if you did a proper PMCS, you're gonna say yes. You steal or tactically acquire, and ultimately you're defrauding the system because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm just saying, this is what I observe and what I interpret. Assault, we're not gonna talk about that because we don't condone none of that crap. But yes, those are the five leadership styles as defined in the reg. The last one is going to be potential counterproductive leaders. So questions you want to ask yourself before you even think about labeling someone's behavior. Does the leader surround themselves with yes people? Right? Leaders that are insecure, they typically do that. They surround themselves with yes people, and they're always going to support their ideas, right? And that's why they're called yes people. Okay? Regardless of what the idea is, they're the people below them are always going to say, "Yep, that's a good idea," right? Because the yes man is they're typically intimidated or fear disagreement. They're not going to provide any constructive criticism. And I'm pretty sure many of you have experienced this, that you'll see someone and their boss, and anytime their boss says something, it's yes and amen. they can't do anything wrong. And then when they leave, they'll say, "Yeah, I would have probably done it this way." And you're in your head, you're like, "Why didn't you just say something?" But whatever. The next question you want to ask yourself is the leader unreceptive to feedback or suggestions? Right. So effective leadership requires listening to suggestions and feedback of followers or other individuals. You guys already know the internet's out there. These young individuals, these younger soldiers, they're on the internet. Some of them are on TikTok most of the time, but the ones that aren't, they still Google stuff, right? General knowledge, especially when they want to prove you wrong. Want to prove someone wrong, you Google the regulation and you be like, "Yep, this is what it says." So, point is, soldiers have more knowledge than we give them credit, and a lot of times you just give them a task and you just say, "Hey, knock it out the way you want to," or you put something out in the platoon, like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this PT schedule. You guys have any input?" But if you're just not going to take solutions the of your peers or even definitely your subordinates, then it's just going to create resentment, right? And it's going to create conflict, dissatisfaction, and attrition. This is why these officers refrad. This is why these soldiers don't reenlist, because they don't feel appreciated. They're dissatisfied at the end of the day, and then it makes them upset. So anything and everything you say is gonna be they're gonna go against it, right? Next question you want to ask yourself is the leader out of touch with subordinates? And this happens a lot with as you progress in rank, right? So sergeant majors, small colonels, small group of people that they're around. But a lot of times these leaders come down to the unit level, organizational level, and they just want to talk around and they want to walk around and see what's going on. And that's where the dog and pony show is. So they don't really get an actual pulse of what is real. They just get the dog and pony show. Um, but isolating by being either isolating themselves on purpose, like they're not going to go, or isolated unbeknownst to them, it just makes it's dangerous, because when they make a decision, it impacts all those individuals at the organizational level, and you just don't like it because they think it's good. It sounds good to them, but the impact that it has is just horrible. So that's the is a question you have to ask: is the leader out of touch? And when you ask yourself that, are they making any attempts to try and stay in touch? Next question you want to ask is: do when something goes wrong, do they blame others? Now, if a leader is blaming others for their problems, and then their primary focus may be on maintaining their image, and I'm pretty sure you guys have been a part of that. They want to maintain their image rather than focusing on the problem. So they're going to blame someone else, and it's never their fault. And when that happens, it's just no good, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're the leader and something happens in your area, in your workspace, let's say you're the platoon sergeant and the squad leader didn't do their job, and you go to brief something, "Oh yeah, my squad leader forgot to do this." You're still wrong because you didn't check behind them at the end of the day. That's just how I see it. Um, the next question you want to ask yourself is: do others feel worse around them when interacting with the leader? If I get a 560 on my ACFT and my platoon sergeant says, "Well, is that the best you can do?" Right? While yes, we're grown-ups, and you may be like, "Well, don't let others affect you." It does, because we're all human. I remember I said this also I said a lot of things on the podcast, but when I got back from battle staff, I got a few coins and I got awarded and stuff like that. And I came back talking to a couple sergeant majors in my meadow, and I told them about it, like, because it was the first day. I was like, "Oh yeah." And they asked me, "Hey, you graduated?" I was like, "Yeah, I got coins and I got this." And this sergeant major just says, "Oh, so you were sucking up to them or something like that." I can't remember what it was. And I was like, "What? Like, why would you say that?" You know what I mean? Like, why would you say that? It just blew my mind. Another thing is, like, when someone does their job really well, don't just say that's your job. If you're gonna say that, shut the hell up. Just don't say nothing. Just go ahead and just keep it moving. Be like, "All right, cool, whatever." That's better than you downplaying what they did. because some people do their job. Some people do their job really well. Not everything is award worthy, but a pat on the back doesn't hurt nobody. Doesn't cost you anything. Last question you're going to ask is, does the leader aim their negativity at people who are less powerful rather than those who are more powerful? This is normally referred to as kissing up, kicking down, right? So when they're around their leadership, they're yes and amen to everything. But as soon as even better, their leader walks around with their hands in their pocket. Nothing. You put your hands in your pocket, they blow your face off. Prime example. Okay. Do the leaders act a different way when they're around their superiors? Are they really, really good around you guys and treat you guys respectful? And then when they leave, they're just disrespectful and arrogant and just don't have a care in the world? Or when they talk about their platoon or whatever position they're, I'll just use the platoon because it's more simpler. They say how much they take care of their soldiers, but in reality, everyone listening to it be like, that's not true. Does that happen? So these are kind of the questions that you have to ask. Is just understanding that you treat everyone the same. You should, regardless of rank. And I don't mean you disrespect everyone or you kiss everyone's butt, but just be normal to everyone. Just be normal. You know what I mean? Obviously, your subordinates are going to get a different level of respect, different type of respect, but there should be respect across the board. All right, off my soapbox. Let's go ahead and shut this down. Already been 20 minutes. All right, so in conclusion, counterproductive leadership is in the Army. It undermines morale and the trust amongst all soldiers. We all know that. As soon as you get that counterproductive leader, no one trusts them and no one wants to be around them. It hampers organizational effectiveness and mission accomplishment. Poor leadership leads to decreased unit cohesion and effectiveness in combat situations. Think about that. It can result in increased soldiers' risk of safety and well-being. And addressing counterproductive leadership is critical for maintaining the integrity and effectiveness in the military. You see something? And this is in your organization, you can talk about it and let's get it right. All right. So as I said, if you guys are on YouTube, thank you guys for watching. If you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and download and leave a review. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's help get this channel up. Let's do it. All right. Let's get over 1,000 followers. All right. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and email me at rogersarn@gmail.com. Like my socials. If you want to go to the link tree, it's also Roger Sarn. You can click it into the description and it'll show you all the platforms that I'm on. IG, Facebook, TikTok, and join the Discord. Me and Bruner, we're trying to get the Discord into a community. So therefore, if you have any type of issues, questions, comments, anything like that, you can put it in there. We'll talk about it. If you need any tools, anything like on TikTok, yesterday, someone reached out to me for ACFT plan because they're trying to go to MFT and they're trying to get their ACFT score up. I went to work today. I found it in my folder. It's very comprehensive, and it's an Excel spreadsheet. You plug in numbers and it has all these formulas and it'll spread it and it'll push everything out that you need. I didn't make it, but I found it. I'm just waiting for them to send me the email. But that's what the Discord is for, all right? So at the end of the day, remember, you don't have to embrace the suck if you got the right tools in your ruck. I'm Sarn Cruz, and I'm out.
Roger Sarn!